anymore. It's like the rain had, like, cut into it.
It was an unmanaged road.
Yeah.
So we took it, and it was all downhill. Also, we had a 4-wheel drive Jeep, luckily.
That helps.
Was downhill for about a good quarter mile. It was dark out. There was a lot of tall woods, and we stopped the car because the road started to go back vertical up, and it was too rough for us to drive, and we sat there for a moment.
And what did you say? You said, whatever you do, don't get out of the car. And then what happened?
Well, I wasn't in a rush to get out because we were isolated. It was dark.
It was like nobody around.
It was a little bit frightening.
Yeah, it was the woods. The woods in a rutty road with dirt and nothing around you.
So, but then I bucked up and I said, "Hey, we're here. We got to go do this."
And then I looked at you and I said, "But you just said whatever we do, don't get out of the car."
I know, but we had to get out.
We had to get out.
We had to get out. So we get out with flashlights and we walk up the hill, another probably eighth of a mile.
Oh my gosh! And it's like the road was slipping out from underneath us because we're in a steep incline, and you can just feel yourself just not being able to grab onto the road. It was just slick dirt.
And we got up to it kind of plateaued, and then to the side we saw what looked like a campsite. Because we found a campfire ring, and we figured this has got to be close. This has got to be the location where maybe Jim Ragsdale was camping out when he saw the UFO crash.
And in the Ragsdale story, there's a picture of the camping rings that were there, and it was really close. I mean, what we were seeing was really close to the pictures in the Ragsdale story.
So we got there. It was a beautiful night. It was like a cloudless sky, plenty of stars, and we just kind of hung out there and looked around.
But there was something creepy. You could hear nothing. That was the weird part, because you would think, you could hear the rustling in the trees because we were surrounded by trees. You could hear animals. Nothing.
Totally quiet. Totally quiet.
Still.
That's scary when you run into that.
Yeah.
So it was a beautiful hike up there, and we got there, and what we really wanted to do was spend time to go look around in the woods to see where the crash site was, because in the book they had plenty of photos where there was a path cut through the trees because the UFO knocked down the trees, the brush, and it finally came up against rocks and sat there. We wanted to see that, but we went at night instead of day. So that ended, and we hiked back down to the Jeep. We got out of there, and we were driving back.
Yeah. But driving back was weird, too. Okay, I've got to explain this because
please do.
Funny.
Please do.
So when driving back, it's really dark, and all of a sudden we have these bunnies coming out of nowhere. I don't know, they were like jackrabbits, and they were attracted to the lights of the truck, and Andy had to slow down to make sure he didn't hit the rabbits, and then we also had deer. So that was just the end of a weird night.
Well, anyways, to make a long story short, we had a nice visit there. We finally got back, got a good night's sleep, and the next day we drove around out to the Corona area where the debris site was next to a ranch. And before I get too far along in this story, I'd like to point your listeners to our website so they can look around.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, give it out.
So it's UFOtriangle.com. UFOtriangle.com. On there, we've got plenty of pages, so you can look at both books, and you can also look at some of the other photographs we've taken and some of the history of the research. And even I've got a page for Jim Ragsdale. I've got some of the Jim Ragsdale story on there. So to make a long story short, there's also a page on there for 1996 photos, and you'll find a photograph on there where this ridiculous guy standing on the hood of a Jeep pointing, and behind him is this weird-looking cloud. So what happened was,
to the right. Yes, I see it.
When we got out to the debris site, I jumped up on the truck just so I can get a better view of the area, and I had a camera with 35 millimeter film.
And I'm taking the picture.
Well, first I took a 180 degree photo of the area, and we could see the mountain in the foreground where we were the night before. So, as the story went, the UFO had an explosion of some type, which created the debris site at the ranch, and then some 30 miles later, it crashed near Jim Ragsdale on the mountain. So the last picture we took there, I'm pointing to the mountain, and I'm thinking the UFO was flying in that direction and crashed. So we took the pictures, we left, we made it to Albuquerque, and we enjoyed
shopping.
We finally went shopping, out to dinner, enjoyed the trip, went back home. And about a couple of weeks later, we reviewed the 9 rolls of film, and when we got the film back, we're looking at it, and when we get to the picture of me on the Jeep, this cloud shows up.
I took the photo, and I tell you, the New Mexico skies are azure blue. Clear, clear, clear. I did not see a cloud in the sky. So as you look at the picture, you'll see that Andy is angling his hand from behind, trying to show how this UFO might have crashed, and the cloud behind him has a flying saucer shape and is angled the same as Andy's hand. It is a freaky-looking thing. If anything, just to go to the website and find the picture, it's really something to see.
Well, it is, because I'm looking at it here, and I see him with his sunglasses. He's pointing his elbow, and right down, below his elbow, there's that cloud. It does kind of resemble, if you just glance at it, the first thing that pops in my mind is UFO.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, this photograph is what set me off doing my own research. Up to this point, I was just reading books and going out and looking around, but now I needed to do my research. So where did I go? What was the direction? And my thought was that there have been so many researchers and authors who've already been writing about the Roswell incident. I'm not going to cover that again. I believe it happened. So my thought is, okay, a UFO was out there and it crashed. What was it doing out there? Where was it going? What was the purpose? See, I was in the military, and I worked in navigation in the Navy. So you got a ship, and you got a direction to go. You got a mission. You got a point A. You got a point B, and you chart a way to get there, and you go. So I'm thinking, what were these guys doing? Were they just out cruising for chicks and beer and pizza, or were they going someplace when they crashed?
He meant the aliens.
That's what I was talking about. So, anyways, what I did was I drew a line on a map between the debris site and the crash site, and I figured that's a flight path. And possibly, if there was an explosion, and if maybe the crew members were incapacitated due to the explosion, and it may, possibly if it was in an automatic mode, like maybe they were in a shuttle, it was automated, then it kept going the same course. So I drew that flight path. I drew it south on a map, I drew it north on a map, and where did it cross but a national park in Colorado and a national park in West Texas? And I said, that's really odd. Could it have been that it did travel from those two locations? And what's the significance of that? So then, going back through the research of the Roswell history, there was a UFO sighting in Roswell the day before the crash, so they say. So I took the northern point at the park, and I drew it to Roswell on down south, and what happened again? We went to another national park. So I created what I believe is my UFO triangle theory, where the 3 points of the triangle are national parks, one in Colorado and two in West Texas. And the UFO that crashed was flying from one point to another. Well, now, this isn't saying that, aliens are visiting our national parks. What I'm getting at is that sometime in our past, I believe our government discovered that aliens are here, that they're visiting.
Oh, yeah.
And possibly a treaty was made. And what better way to work with and protect aliens in an underground base than to make it federal land? so that the general public doesn't just run into them any time of the day. So by making it, well, you got a couple choices. You could put a fence around it with guards, like Area 51, but then lots of people would want to look there. Or in this case, maybe the government had the idea of making a national park over an alien base, and in this case, 3 alien bases.
Now, I got to say something here. Too, there is a person out there who, has written a book about missing in the national parks, and it's really strange that amount of people have gone missing in the national park. Like I've said on my show numerous times, you go into a national park, hunting, you could, die different ways. But up to about, I think 4 years ago, there was over 14,000 people have gone into national parks in our country and never came back out. 14,000. And the Park Service, the park police, do not really take the time to investigate it. They don't release a lot of information. So there's a lot of theories, too, that, even connecting Bigfoot, which I think Bigfoot does exist, but not in the way that people think it exists. I think that, there was a treaty made back in Eisenhower days. I do think that there is underground bases because I do have contact with some people in different government agencies that have told me little trivets of information. But, again, too, I think maybe, I hate to say it, a lot of abductions probably has happened in the National Forest System.
I have seen a lecture by David Paulides, who wrote the 411 books here in Orange County. I'm a member of MUFON and recently became a board member, which I'm proud to say. And David gave a great lecture on that subject. And his books don't necessarily tell you what happened because you don't know, but he lays out all the evidence of what they think happened. A time, a place, a person gone missing, but there's no answer as to why they went missing. And in his lecture, he says it's not in the book, but in his lecture, I believe he pointed to Bigfoot in many cases. But, heck, why not aliens, too? I mean, we don't have any proof of it, but there could be that possibility.
Well, here's the thing, Andrew. I had on my show a park ranger who wrote a book. He was on maybe 5 months ago. And, he was in his bedroom, and the way his house was, he didn't have neighbors. So he never closed his bedroom curtains. And all of a sudden, he claims he saw some grays walking towards his bedroom, from the parking area of his house. And the next thing he knows, he doesn't remember anything other than that they came into his room, and that's all he remembered. Then, all of a sudden, he started seeing owls, the birds, like mad. He'd go out, doing his job, and he'd run owls here. Everywhere was owls. And, and he wrote a book about it. And then I kind of we were talking, I said, have you ever thought maybe you were abducted and that's what they implanted in your mind? So when you go and see an alien, you're not seeing an alien, you're seeing an owl. The same way, maybe like with Bigfoot, people go out there and they think they see Bigfoot. Maybe Bigfoot isn't Bigfoot. Maybe, again, it could be aliens. Because going back because I have a couple of members of my family that belong to the Muckleshoot Indian tribe and another tribe. And, I talked to the medicine man and I talked to the medicine woman. They told me stories about Bigfoot going back well over 150 years. And maybe what we think is a Bigfoot is not a Bigfoot. Maybe it's when we see them, that's what they give us, a shape-shifting. So they could possibly be aliens. We don't know, but it's just so many people, it's gone missing, and that's scary.
Awesome. Hey, thank you for the story, and I may want to contact you again offline about getting in touch with our Native Americans and what they may know on aliens, and because that's part of the research I'm missing a little bit is Native Americans that are on the triangle, because say the Ute Indian tribe, they were located at the north end of my triangle. They were located in the San Luis